This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth. That is the arrival boards. We are here in the Lisbon airport. Now, this is the morning that the Bilderberg participants are supposed to be arriving. And I've located a sign that has the typical Bilderberg blue colors on it. And somebody with a checklist and a sheet of paper that has mugshots on it. So I think we found their handlers. So now it's time to stick around and catch some of these guys as they try to get into their cars, and we'll hit them up with some questions that the mainstream media is not willing to do because they're not even here. So this guy and this lady right here have the faces and the names of the participants, and they're going to try to catch them as they come out. And at that point, I jump in. Let's see what we can do.
Hi. Oh, with this one. Yes. Perfect. How is it? Oh, yes. Mr. Korsky, how are you doing? Fine. Hello. How about that tweet where you said thank you? Have a nice day. After the Nord Stream incident.
How are you, sir?
Would you like to explain that one? It was a very interesting one. Okay, well, have a wonderful stay.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you.
Why did you tweet thank you after the Nord Stream incident, sir?
Have a nice day.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Are you looking forward to the meeting this year, sir? Yeah, there seems to be a lot of people concerned with your having meeting people privately behind closed doors. What do you have to say to that about the secrecy of the meeting? Any thoughts on the secrecy of Bilderberg, sir?
Mr. Skorsky.
Bon travail, Monsieur Beaune. Bonne journée. Who is it? Monsieur Beaune. Who is that? Minister of Europe.
Sir, do you have any thoughts on the other riots in Paris going on?
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Any thoughts on the riots in Paris? Are you looking forward to your stay this time at Bilderberg, sir? So, Josh and I are currently on stakeout, which quite literally means standing around for hours and hours waiting to find somebody. This is the part that a lot of people don't see, you know, is the waiting and waiting and waiting.
I'll say this, if I may. With how Bilderberg has changed everything up and become much more secretive, putting out their press release with the participants list and the key topics at the very last moment, basically when the participants are arriving.
Yeah.
What really helps is if we're getting in real time photos, faces that we can match to who we're seeing coming in. In fact, that's what the security is doing themselves.
Yeah.
The security's got their own list and their own photos.
Yeah, it makes
that kind of help goes a long way for us.
Yeah, it sure does. It makes it tricky for us to formulate solid questions and to know exactly who the members are. Trying to memorize their faces is difficult. There's 130 of them.
Well, to do it in real time, some of these we can be prepared. For the steering committee, for instance, we can expect the steering committee members to be here, but if they're going to release 80 to 100 new names right at the last second, it makes things a little bit tricky.
Yeah. So we're just going to continue to patiently wait, and as soon as these Bilderbergers crawl out of the corners that they're hidden in, we'll shine the light on them. Stay tuned.
Ms. Hedegaard, wonderful to see you. Welcome to Lisbon. It's only been what, like 11 months since I've last seen you. What do you have in mind for this year's meeting? The Danish Prime Minister is coming, right? And it's your choice who comes from Denmark, right? You made a really good choice last year with Ms. Auken. So how do you decide on the Danish Prime Minister coming this year? Anything special related to Denmark that will be discussed at Bilderberg this year?
Everything will be discussed.
Okay, well, have a great meeting. Bye-bye, Ms. Hedegaard.
Mostly different flights. A lot of planets,
How are you doing, gentlemen? Are you looking forward to the Bilderberg meeting this year? Do you have any thoughts on why it's so secretive and why there's Chatham House rules? Any comment on the Chatham House rules, sir? You know, a lot of people would like an answer as to the secrecy in the Chatham House rules. Mum's the word. All right, so in just a few minutes from now, I'm going to be going live on Infowars, Infowars.com, and it'd be neat if we could do some sort of confrontation live, but might not be likely because the connection's not very good down here, so I'm going to have to probably head up outside to get a decent connection, but let's go talk to Infowars.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the second hour of the American Journal on this Thursday, May 18th, 2023 broadcast. Joined now live by Dan Dix. He's an investigative journalist and award-winning documentary filmmaker. He's also the founder of an independent media outlet known as Press for Truth, which produces videos and documentary films about issues that the mainstream media often fails to report on. More like avoids like the plague, the truth about who really runs our world. He can be found on Twitter at DanDixPFT. The website is pressfortruth.tv. He's also on Rumble at Press for Truth, and he's there in Lisbon, Portugal now, reporting live on the ground at the Bilderberg Conference. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Dix.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Our pleasure. I wish I could be there with you, sort of confronting in a peaceful manner these Bilderberg attendees. Let's just give us the rundown. What is Bilderberg this year? Why do you think it's important to be on the ground there at Bilderberg?
Well, this just so happens to be some of the world's most powerful and influential people, a group that's comprised of approximately 120 to 130 people on average. We're talking prime ministers and presidents, royalty, heads of military, media men, military men. As I said, some of the world's most influential and powerful people. And they're quite literally meeting in secret behind closed doors, discussing the very fate of the world. So, you know, I've been covering this for 17 years now. My first one was in 2006, and I think it's of the utmost importance to shine a bright light on the deeds that are done in the dark. You know, when we have these type of people meeting, I think there needs to be more questions as to, you know, who is involved. And that's some of the reasons why I often come, because in my experience of covering this, I've noticed that there's often discrepancies within the official participants list. And unless you're actually here on the grounds documenting who's actually coming into attendance, you'll never know about these particular discrepancies. And then once you find out of some of these people who are there, you can get a better idea of some of the topics and some of the agendas that are truly on the table. So that's why I think it's important for independent media and anyone for that matter to cover Bilderberg. And that's why I made out the trip all the way out here to Lisbon, Portugal. As you can see right now behind me, we're in like a VIP area of the airport. I was down earlier, but there's not such a great connection here. But here, I think, is where we're going to see a lot of the more kind of high-profile Bilderberg members making their getaway into their car. So hopefully we're going to be able to get some solid questions in with some of them here today.
You know, you almost have to wonder how many meetings do these people need to have? I mean, they have the World Economic Forum, they have the Global Government Summit, they have just meeting after meeting, and this is sort of the oldest, and there's been an interesting evolution over the years. it used to be, and you can still find archived, you know, articles where they say the Bilderberg meeting never happens. It doesn't exist. It's a total conspiracy theory. They've been outed, and now they take the tack of, oh no, it's totally open, totally good. Here's our agenda. Here's our list of attendees. There's nothing nefarious going on. I mean, what does that reflect, do you think, this transformation that the Bilderberg Group has undergone from a totally secret and undercover and denied thing that's happening to something where they now publish their agenda and their talking points and their list? I mean, what brought about that transformation to you?
Well, I think it's a great deal of the pressure that we've been putting on this group. In fact, based on my coverage of the 2012 meeting in Chantilly, Virginia, I made a full feature-length documentary film about the Bilderberg Group, and it was called The Turning Point. And the reason why I called that film The Turning Point is because it seemed like that was around the time that marked a new kind of time for Bilderberg, because at that particular meeting, there were probably 2 to 3 dozen independent media reporters there. And I remember thinking, wow, this is a whole new time for Bilderberg. So, you know, we've learned some tricks of the trade, if you will, from the late, great Jim Tucker, you know, who would often have kind of, you know, people on the inside, you know, leaking information. Mm-hmm. And now, as we said, we like you said, it's gotten to the point where they quite literally have to put this out on purpose. It's almost like hiding in plain sight, where they don't want to, you know, say, hey, we're not hiding anything. Look, here's our messages. Here's what we're saying. Here's what we're doing. But I actually think we forced that upon them. They've been meeting since, 1954, and it's only within the last few years that they started talking about the fact that this is happening. And I really do think that's largely because of the bright lights of publicity that we've been shining on this group, because they've remained in the shadows for so many years. That's just simply not a thing anymore. Now, this particular one was very difficult to get to. As you can see, there's about 4 other people here covering this with me. It was announced very, very last minute. And, so a lot of people probably weren't willing to make the trip, but our sources were correct that this is indeed the location here in Lisbon, Portugal. So I'm thankful for that, because I just went ahead and booked some tickets, hoping my source was correct. Right. And sure enough, he was. And this is where it's happening. So, yeah, it all worked out.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, I completely agree. I think by shining light on these people, it became ridiculous for them to try to claim that it wasn't happening. So they had to change their tactics. They had to move with the times, and they understood, okay, it's not just the mainstream media out there with our puppeted sources willing to deny our existence. Now you've got independent people like Alex Jones and Dan Dix out here, capturing them on film going in. They can't exactly say, I wasn't there. Their images on film. What are they going to say? So instead, they have to say, no, yeah, we all the elite of the world are meeting in secret to plot world domination, but we're doing it because we love you. We're doing it because we care so much. What is the security system like there? I mean, how protected are these people? We know from the World Economic Forum, I mean, they've got just elaborate security apparatus just surrounding them, keeping the public out. Are you experiencing that in Lisbon today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the police presence around the hotel was quite significant. For the first time, I saw them doing a bomb sweep. They had a number of bomb sniffing dogs, and they went around the entire perimeter, sniffing essentially every single thing that came, that they came across. They had the entire thing shut down, and a giant wall around the hotel, actually. It's like an impenetrable fortress right now. And a lot of people don't realize that the costs are often actually put on the taxpayer of the town where the Bilderberg is actually meeting, because we have local police here in Lisbon, Portugal, who are working, 24/7 for the next 4 nights, and that's on the taxpayer's dollar here in Lisbon. So it is a pretty extreme police presence and security presence for these guys, and that actually says a lot too, that they have to be hiding to that degree. You know what I mean? So yeah, the police presence is significant here, and it makes it rather difficult to get in. And as I understand it, though, there was one of the members. He's on a steering committee. I think he might be the CEO of Palantir. I think his name is Karp.
Mm-hmm.
He donates.
Palantir, yeah, Alex Karp.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been donating to the Bilderberg Group this year. Some years he's donated 500,000, some years 800,000. And basically, he's footing some of the bill for their personal security and food and things of that nature. But it's basically on the taxpayer when it comes to the Lisbon police and whatever other police that they use in whatever town they visit.
It really is just it's another Davos. It's another one of these meetings where we played Alex Cart bragging about how his software and technology using AI would sorry, there's some people talking around you, I guess, but yeah, it's these people who are coming together to talk about how to eliminate privacy on the internet, about how, if you have nothing to worry about, you should have nothing to hide, and all of your financial records and all of your health records and everything about you will be completely open and public access, and you'll be able to keep nothing secret. But for them, it's walls and guards and police dogs and total absolute secrecy. I mean, the watchword of these groups is hypocrisy, Dan. I mean, does it get more ridiculous?
No, and we've got the president of the World Economic Forum, who's actually on the steering committee, coming here. This is a man who thinks that you should own nothing and be happy.
Right.
A president of the WEF coming here, meeting in secret to discuss the fate of the world, and that's something that I'm not just going to let slip past on my watch, and that's why we're here.
This is the real global government. Dan Dix is on the ground documenting it. By the way, it's pressfortruth.ca is the website. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Dix is my guest, Skyping in live from Lisbon, Portugal, where the Bilderberg meeting is just getting kicked off. Dan Dix is an investigative journalist and the founder of Press for Truth. You can go to pressfortruth.ca. I said it wrong in the first part. It's pressfortruth.ca, and on Rumble at Press for Truth, and on Twitter, Dan Dix can be found at DanDixPFT. Now, you said that it was only about within the last hour or so, like this meeting is just getting kicked off, and only in the last hour or so have they actually revealed the list of attendees. Even the fact that they reveal a list of attendees is kind of a new update. They used to, again, keep it totally secret. What have you discovered from this list of attendees? Have you had a chance to go through it yet, and any names jump out to you?
Well, as a Canadian, I'm often interested in the Canadian connection to Bilderberg. So I did notice that this year there is only 4 members from Canada. But one of those in particular is someone who I have a great interest in getting a hold of today, which I think she'll be coming out up here. And that is the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, Chrystia Freeland. Now, she's been all sorts of things, Minister of Finance. She's kind of worked her way up in this thing. And now she's to the point where she's getting invited to Bilderberg. So I discovered that it was over 10 years ago. She wrote a paper titled the new, the great elite, the new beginning for the great elite, or something to that extent. And in this paper, she talked about the Bilderberg Group and said it is a very secretive, nefarious group. This is over a decade ago now. So when I see her coming out of here, I want to ask her, you wrote this paper, you said the Bilderberg is a secretive group over a decade ago. Have your views changed now that you are a member yourself, Miss Freeland? And obviously, it should be interesting what she has to say to that. This is also the same lady who froze people's bank accounts, who didn't allow people to want to meet in Canada, free assemble in our nation's capital, and completely shut that down. Meanwhile, she's expected to be able to freely meet in complete secrecy here, discussing the fate of Canadians and others. So I can't wait till she comes out. She's definitely one of the ones I have my eyes on.
Yeah, I think viewers of our show will recognize her name immediately as a World Economic Forum agent. And again, all these groups, they might have different names. I mean, this is the global government. We've been warning for years that the global government is coming. I would argue it's here now, and you're there at the center. It moves around. It doesn't have a capital yet. It may one day once the temple gets rebuilt or whatever. But until then, they jump around to different cities, and they come together in Congress. They set set policy, then that policy gets implemented by their national outlets, I guess you could say. But I mean, this is, for all intents and purposes, the global government in operation, already working. There's the article right there, The Rise of the New Global Elite by Chrystia Friedland, which I guess was her begging for an invitation to that global elite. Now, I want to go quickly to a video because, as you know, from WEF, all these things, they're all the same people. Here's the WEF chairman, Klaus Schwab, talking about how unimportant privacy is. Let's watch. He says, in this new world, we must accept transparency. And I'll even say total transparency. He says, banking secrecy, everything is going to be transparent. And you have to get used to it. You have to behave accordingly. It becomes, how should I put it, integrated in your personality. But if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't be afraid. Right? That's for you. I mean, when they say you will own nothing and you will have no privacy, they're talking to you, not them. As you've seen, they'll have total privacy. I mean, you know, how do you even confront this level of hypocrisy where they've got armed guards, and you just saw during the break there, we saw a giant motorcade going by with the blacked out windows. I mean, total secrecy for them, none for us. Doesn't that just represent the whole setup that this new global government is building for us?
Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to, you know, confronting these guys, you know, I've learned over the years, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this. Obviously, anybody gets on the defensive when you walk up to their, you know, with a camera in their face and you start, you know, shouting questions at them. So I obviously have a very much of a different approach. Sometimes, you know, if you just kind of flatter their ego a little bit, you know, they will be a little more inclined to want to speak to you and maybe potentially divulge some information that you're trying to figure out. So, you know, I've learned that over the years. So my approach is a little bit, you know, different now. I kind of always was taking this approach, but I think that's important, is to remain calm and to you know, not raise your voice or anything like that. Now, these people, you know, deserve this to a great extent, but I think it's important, if you actually want to get a conversation going, is to keep the peace and remain calm. And then you have a, you know, pretty good chance of getting some responses to your questions that certainly none of the mainstream media is going to ask, you know, and this is why we're here. You just think about it. The late great Jim Tucker used to say this all the time. If there was 120 movie stars and famous athletes meeting in this building behind the, you know, lockdown, so many journalists, thousands, would be outside wondering, what the heck are these guys talking about in there? Here you have, again, some of the world's most powerful and influential people, and it's a complete media blackout. This is why we take the effort to get down here, because if nobody's going to shine a light on, you know, what these guys are doing, I mean, basically somebody has to do it. The mainstream media is absolutely failing in their job to do so. And so, yeah, that's why we're here right now at the airport in Lisbon, attempting to confront these guys, doing the job the mainstream media is not willing to do.
You know, it's not even that they're not willing to. I totally agree with you. But, you know, you go through this list. I'm going to go through the list because it has been published now and we have it. But, you know, I know you don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to spend time reading the names while we have you on. But I'll do that in the next segment. But when you start going through these, you start seeing staff writer at The Atlantic, editor of Newsweek. You know, you start seeing members of the mainstream media there at the meeting. So it's not like they're just failing to cover this big story. I mean, they're in on it. That's the real story, isn't it?
Well, yes. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, a lot of the representatives of the media are on the inside. They operate under something that's called Chatham House rules, where they have essentially agreed to just, you know, be tight-lipped. There's no minutes of the meetings that are kept or anything of that nature. And again, a complete media lockdown, blackout, even though some of the biggest people in media are in fact in here. So, you know, in previous years, I've had the opportunity to confront some of these media moguls. Matthias Dopfner was one of them. He owns, you know, a lot of publications, and I managed to confront him about their post-truth world agenda topic from last year. And again, yes, you make a good point. You know, it says a lot that the media are actually on the inside here and not even reporting on it, but that's because they've been instructed to do so. I've got a very funny story about meeting some of the mainstream media at the Bilderberg in Austria, when I actually infiltrated the group and managed to get on the inside of the hotel during lockdown because they mistake me for a member of the White House press corps, and I found out that the White House press corps was staying in the Bilderberg Hotel, not even knowing what was going on there. They were traveling to Munich to cover the G7. And so when I said, do you not know what's happening in this very hotel where you're staying right now? They had no clue. So that says a lot right there.
It absolutely does. And it just seems like just about every Bilderberg, something like that happens. And we rely on people like you getting us this information. It's Dan Dix at Dan Dix PFT on Twitter. The website is pressfortruth.ca, Press for Truth on Rumble. Thank you so much for being with us, sir. And good luck on your mission.
Thank you. We're now going on the 12th hour of being here on Stakeout. And I got to say, it's been significantly more difficult to have some interactions with the Bilderberg members this particular year. You know, I remember back in 2019 was the last time that I covered Bilderberg because 2020 was canceled, 2021 was canceled. 2022, I was a prisoner in my own country and not allowed to fly out because I'm unvaccinated. But at any rate, back in 2019, I remember I had dozens and dozens of fantastic interactions. In fact, I put together an entire compilation video called some of the best airport confrontations at Bilderberg ever. And it was fantastic. This time, very, very different setup. You know, they've had all the VIPs kind of going up in this private area. And, you know, participants list not coming out until the morning of them arriving. It made things rather difficult, but I got to say, you know, if you don't come out and give it a try, you're never going to know what you can get at an event like Bilderberg. You know, a friend of mine online, Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, God love her, she chimed in on my Facebook and said, Dan, if this is a private meeting, if this is closed off to the outside, what's the point of going? What kind of information are you really going to gather from here? I'm paraphrasing, but in a nutshell, she said, you know, what's the point? And so I had to explain to her that, again, look, if you don't try, you never know what you're going to get. And it's really about raising awareness to the general public that this is even going on in the first place. I mean, let's face it, just like I said in that InfoWars interview, the late, great Jim Tucker used to say, if there were 120 famous athletes and movie stars all gathering in this building, discussing things behind closed doors, all kinds of people are going to be wondering, what are they talking about? You know, 1,000 journalists would be out front, trying to get to the bottom of why they are secretly meeting. Well, in this case, we've got about 120, 130 of some of the world's most powerful and influential people meeting in secret, and it's just a complete media blackout. Not on my watch, is what I had to respond to Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson. Like I said, God love her, she's fantastic, but I think she needs to understand that if we are not here shining the bright lights of publicity on these people who need to be exposed, nobody will. So somebody's got to do it, ladies and gentlemen, and like I said, you don't know what you're going to get until you get here. But I'm certainly not going to stop trying. If that's something that you guys appreciate, that I'm coming all the way out here to Lisbon, Portugal, to try to get to the bottom of what's going on here, like no other MSM is willing to do, and hardly any independent media either, please check that link, the top link in the description, once again, to a Go Get funding campaign to help out with my efforts. Come on down here. Of course, I'm here anyways. You know, you can continue to rely on the footage and coverage that I'm going to continue to provide and bring you for the next 4 days or so. But if you do appreciate my efforts to do this, I'd ask that you take just a moment to check that top link in the description. So that's all for today, guys. Crazy 12-hour long day. A little bit more uneventful than I would have hoped for. But I wouldn't change a thing when it comes to coming to these things. I'm going to continue to expose evil and wickedness in high places and shine that bright light of publicity on the Bilderberg members for years to come. Once again, if that's something you appreciate, please check the top link in the description below. That's all for today, guys. Stay tuned for more video reports and extensive coverage of the 2023 Bilderberg Conference coming very soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. will set you free.
I can introduce myself if you want.
Please, please.
I'm Sigrid Kaag. I come from the Netherlands.
And my name is Josh Friedman. I'm a journalist from the U.S.
But I'm not going to comment on anything. You have to ask the Bilderberg organizers. I'm just on a little walk now.
Would you say that it's been a productive conference? Are there any takeaways that you're going to be able to implement when you get back to the Netherlands?
Please just get in touch with the conference.
I've contacted the press service before, and unfortunately the interaction is lack thereof. Ms. Kaag, I'd love to follow up on our conversation from yesterday.
Oh, it's you again.
Yeah, I mean, you were so lovely. I just wanted to come back and say hi.
We have to be. That's what makes a good journalist.
Good for you.
Bilderberg must be a very significant place for a trade minister to go.
I also do development cooperation.
Oh, and development corporation. So how does Bilderberg relate to the development corporation? What comment other than no comment do you have, Ms. Kaag?
Have a nice day. I'm flying back to my children.
You have a very nice day as well.
Thank you. Bye, Joe.
Oh, Ruda! Prime Minister! Prime Minister, can we get a wave? Hey, Prime Minister! Prime Minister! How many Bilderbergs have you attended now? We have a motorcade for Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, who has just arrived in Lisbon to attend yet another Bilderberg meeting. There goes Mr. Rutte. Dutch Prime Minister is headed with his motorcade to the Pestana Palace in Lisbon.
You know what, I think that is the beauty of it. You need both, as I said. You need on the one hand transparency, but you also need to have the possibility to discuss things in a circle where media are not attending. The transparency, I think, of the conference is pretty impressive. You have the program online and accessible to everybody, so you know exactly the topics that we are discussing, you know the participants, and I think that's, compared to other conferences, and I attend a lot of them, I think that is quite a role model of transparency. So I think there is...
Comparing it to Davos.
Yeah.
Davos, it gets compared to Davos all the time.
Davos is for 4,500.
The talks are live streamed.
Yeah.
So how is this
4,000 participants or more. That's totally uncomparable. So I think it needs both, and that's the plurality of conferences and discussions.
Okay,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Mr. Sikorsky, how are you doing?
Fine, hello.
How about that tweet where you said thank you after
Have a nice day.
after the Nord Stream incident?
Have a nice day.
Would you like to explain that one? It was a very interesting one. Okay, well, have a wonderful stay in Lisbon, and I hope you have a very productive meeting.
Have a nice day.
Bonjour, Ms. Barbizet. Welcome to Lisbon. Will Total be well represented at the meeting this year? Ms. Barbizet, as a steering committee member, could you give me one comment about what you might be focusing on at this year's meeting? No comment? S'il vous plaît? One? Just one? Not even a half of one?
Mr. Teal, do you have any comments about Palantir's surveillance of the American people, sir? Or any of your connections to Jeffrey Epstein? I think people are rather concerned about that last particular one. You're setting up a Big Brother surveillance system, and people know it, sir. Do you think the American people want this surveillance tech being used against them? Any comments at all on the Epstein connections? You were meeting with them. People are waking up to what you're doing there, sir. That's why we're here covering this. Wow, Peter Thiel was booking it. That man picked up the pace. The second the word Epstein came out, it seemed he started getting a little faster. But stone cold Peter Thiel. Of course, co-founded Palantir with Alex Karp, who is still here. And these are the guys who are setting up the Big Brother surveillance system, essentially to track, trace, and database everyone. Not just Americans, you may have heard me say that, but literally everyone. And that's a big reason of, part of the reason why he is here. There is a lot of heavy kind of tech representation here and military men who are preparing for something. So Peter Thiel in the house. This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth. I'm here in Stockholm, Sweden, at the location of the annual Bilderberg Conference. There is a massive security perimeter being set up right now around this entire block of this building, because tomorrow morning, around 120 or so of some of the world's most powerful and influential people are going to be meeting inside this hotel, behind closed doors, under Chatham House rules, which means they are not allowed to discuss who said what at this particular meeting. So I don't know what the security is going to be like here. In the past, I've been detained dozens and dozens of times. I've been, arrested and thrown in jail. Hopefully, they're not going to be too heavy-handed this time around. But as I said, the whole thing is about to kick off tomorrow morning. I will be here for the entire duration of this particular event, guys. So stay tuned for all my videos and coverage coming up soon. Unless, of course, I get thrown in jail again. Wish me luck. We have one police officer behind us giving us a decent amount of information, actually, letting us know where the barriers are going to be moved to on the day, what kind of security we can expect. So far, they're seeming pretty friendly. Let's hope that continues. Alright guys, as you know, I'm here at the location of the annual Bilderberg Conference, and I've just discovered something very, very interesting. Directly across the street from the hotel that is owned by billionaire bankster Jacob Wallenberg, who's hosting this year's meeting, is the Grand Lodge of Freemasonry for Sweden. You'll see some of the symbols on the window there, the classic checkerboard floor. Almost looks like an eye and a triangle, and the Red Cross. This is, again, the main lodge of Freemasonry directly across the street from the Bilderberg Hotel. And you know, I find it interesting because there's a lot of similarities between both the Freemasons and the Bilderberg group, in the sense that within Freemasonry, the lower degrees are not privy to some of the information that's revealed when you work your way up in Freemasonry. The lower levels are referred to as the outer core, or the outer protocol, and the true info in regards to what happens with Freemasonry is reserved for the adepts, they say. And very much like Bilderberg, there too is an inner circle within the inner circle, much like Freemasonry. And here we are, just right across the street from the Bilderberg Hotel is the Grand Lodge of Freemasonry here in Sweden. So I find it pretty interesting that it's adjacent, and that interesting correlation there. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, guys. Crazy stuff. When did the Bilderberg start publishing the agenda list and meeting? That's been going on for a while?
It's been going on for at least, I think, 10, 15 years or so.
Didn't they used to have press conferences in the 60s?
I think later, 90s.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's basically a press spokesperson from the Bilderberg meeting, and as you saw, I just asked them, you know, like, when did you guys start publishing the agenda and the participants list? Because I think their hand has been forced due to the exposure they've been getting over the last 20 years. And also mentioned the fact that, didn't you guys used to do press conferences, like literally back in the 60s? And he's like, yeah, we used to do that. Not anymore. Not anymore. The location of this hotel is like very, very interesting, right in the center of everything. Tell me exactly what you said.
No, I said...
What is this building?
I think this is the Parliament.
Parliament?
This is the Royal House.
Yeah.
And this is the Prime Minister. And that's the owners of the world over there. So,
Bilderberg Hotel.
Yeah, Bilderberg Hotel. So we are now in the biggest concentration of world power in this moment.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting indeed. As Federico just said, this is like the center power hub in Sweden, and it's all here. Let's not forget about the Grand Masonic Lodge right behind this building. So it's an interesting location this year. They don't usually stay right downtown in the center hub of everything like this, but here they are. Now, this hasn't even started yet, guys. This whole thing is going to kick off tomorrow. The Bilderberg members will start arriving early tomorrow morning. So the party hasn't even started yet, folks, but it's already been a pretty eventful and interesting first day for me. So stay tuned for my coverage. As I said, we're just getting started, guys. If you do want to support my efforts to come to places like Stockholm, Sweden to cover Bilderberg, please check that top link in the description below to where you can find my Go Get Funding campaign. Thank you so much to everybody who has contributed to that so far. I simply can't be here without people like you, so I really appreciate that, guys. So please check that link in the description below, and stay tuned for tomorrow's day one coverage coming here at Stockholm, Sweden's annual Bilderberg Conference. And I'll have that for you as soon as I can, guys. Stay tuned. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.
Maybe you've been living under a rock and have not heard of the Bilderberg Group. And even if you have heard of the Bilderberg Group, most people don't know much about them and what they do exactly. However, what we can tell you, on face value, is this is essentially a meeting of the minds of some of the world's most elite of the elite to get together annually, have a chat, discuss significant political, geopolitical, technological, financial, and military objectives, and it's all done in secret. This secretive group called the Bilderbergs actually has a website, and guess what? They have an FAQ page as well. On that FAQ page, there's a few key points here where they say, what criteria do I have to meet and what do I have to do to get an invitation? Oh, please note, there is no application process for joining the Bilderberg meetings. Participation is for invitees only. With such high caliber guests, why is there so little media coverage on Bilderberg? Oh, we don't seek any public attention, you see. An annual press conference on the eve of the meeting was held for several decades up until the 90s when people started reporting on it. But it was stopped due to lack of interest, they say. However, the list of participants, main topics, and the locations are always fully published. We'll go into that in a moment. Then it says, in today's information society, with so many of your participants regularly underscoring the importance of transparency in an open society, how can you justify imposing the Chatham House rule? Well, participants are, of course, free to discuss ideas expressed at the meeting in general terms, and many do so every year. However, as in many meetings across the world, participants agree not to quote each other. This is to ensure that all participants feel they can speak freely in an environment of trust. And then there's a question about why does it attract so many people criticizing it? Oh, Bilderberg meetings have often been the target of anti-globalization protests, and various conspiracy theorists have expressed wild allegations about the purpose of the gatherings. While these claims lack any and all merit, we regret to see that many continue to flourish online and in social media groups. So there was a key admission there. When these elites get together to speak freely about the ways in which the world will be steered, they're speaking about things you're not allowed to know about. They take a vow of silence. Quite cultish, actually. What happens at Bilderberg stays at Bilderberg. And of course, there are, quote, conspiracy theories that spread about Bilderberg. Let's take a look at some of the main talking points of the meeting being held there this very week. From the website directly, 71st Bilderberg meeting will be discussing transatlantic relationship, Ukraine, the US economy, Europe, Middle East, authoritarian axis, defense, innovation and resilience, AI, deterrence and national security, proliferation, geopolitics of energy and critical minerals, and depopulation and migration. So this vow of silence taking secret group has actually had Ukraine on their agenda for the past several years. And considering anyone with an ounce of common sense knows the truth about that war, aka NATO versus Russia, it does mean we need to pay attention to this shadowy group that just does seem to obsess over Ukraine for years. So who is in this year's meeting to discuss depopulation specifically, which is also just a conspiracy theory, even though it's listed on their website? Here are some of the names. From the Bilderberg website directly, in no particular order, Fareed Zakaria of CNN, Peter Thiel, Mustafa Suleiman, CEO of Microsoft AI, Jason Smith, member of Congress, Eric E. Schmidt, former CEO of Google and now the CEO of Relatively Space, a rocket company, Brian Schimpf of Anduril, another big player in the military-industrial complex, very closely tied to the likes of Palantir, Samuel Paparo, Commando, US Indo-Pacific Command, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft Corporation, John Micklethwait, Editor-in-Chief at Bloomberg, Michael Kratsios, Director, White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, Alex Karp of Palantir, Thomas L. Friedman, Foreign Affairs columnist at the New York Times, Christopher Donahue, Commander of the US Army, Europe and Africa, Jack Clark, co-founder and head of policy at Anthropic, the AI company whose AIs have been caught deceiving and blackmailing its creators, Albert Bourla of Pfizer, of course, and Applebaum of The Atlantic, which is supposed to be a hostile news agency after the Signal leak, isn't it? Well, Jose Manuel Barroso, Chair, International Advisors at Goldman Sachs International, Borg Brendi, President of the World Economic Forum, and some other notables, Martin Lundstedt, CEO at Volvo Group, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Prime Minister of Greece, Richard Moore, Secret Intelligence Service Chief of Great Britain, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ministers of Finance, and of course, a whole host of big bankers. Oh, and for some reason, Stacey Abrams is going to be there. She's apparently elite now and also interested in depopulation. A journalist there reporting on this shadowy group trying to expose their true agenda is Dan Dix. He reports Sweden's Grand Lodge of Freemasonry is directly adjacent to the Bilderberg Hotel. It's just a conspiracy, guys. And Dan Dix actually has managed to find and question Peter Thiel, grilling him on his Palantir surveillance system and his connections to Epstein. Take a listen.
Mr. Thiel, do you have any comments about Palantir's surveillance of the American people, sir? Or any of your connections to Jeffrey Epstein? I think people are rather concerned about that last particular one. You're setting up a Big Brother surveillance system, and people know it, sir. Do you think the American people want this surveillance tech being used against them? Any comments at all on the Epstein connections? You were meeting with them. People are waking up to what you're doing there, sir. That's why we're here covering this.
And no comment, just hightailing it out of there. Alex Karp, who is on the steering committee along with Peter Thiel, very embedded in this current administration, has previously spoken about how he dreams of drone striking his enemies, referring to people with conflicting beliefs to his. And he's also proclaimed his commitment to, and I quote, scare our enemies and, on occasion, kill them, end quote. Not sure exactly which enemies he's referring to there, but we do know the types of things people who, by invite only, will be discussing with people like Alex Karp behind closed doors this year. Many of these topics of discussion and items on the agenda are predominantly regarding regions and sovereign nations which are not even in attendance. The authoritarian axis, for example, in their list of agenda items, is China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea generally. But they're there to discuss the whole world. The AI takeover, proliferation, likely nuclear, and depopulation. To think for a second that people of such prominence, prime ministers, CEOs of major international corporations, kings even, yes, the King of Netherlands is attending this year, prominent media figures in attendance who likely will never utter a word in their reporting about such a significant meeting, to think that they would attend meetings of this nature, discuss items on the agenda of such magnitude, all in absolute sworn secrecy, never to be discussed in public, would not be persuaded in their decisions in their positions of power, is extremely naive. It's no wonder we see things going on in the world, totally separate countries on the other side of the world to each other with totally different customs, cultures, and religions, all doing the exact same thing. Just have a look at the climate scam. Have a look at how the world tackled COVID. So all this really is a reinforcement that the secretive, shadowy cabal consisting of organizations like the Bilderberg Group, Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, and the likes are still alive and well and still meeting and still discussing world domination. And many are in very significant positions of power or close to those who are. But it's not globalism, you see, or the New World Order. That's just a conspiracy theory. To quote the late, great George Carlin, it's a big club and you ain't in it.